And I'm Lars.
Two guys talking about every fantasy movie ever made. Lars, how are you doing?
I am doing great. It's been a couple weeks. Things have been going pretty well. We went and saw a Post Malone concert, which
Everything I
is
have ever learned about Post Malone, I have learned against my will.
he's pretty talented, man. Puts on a good show. Seems like a pretty interesting guy. His songs are really good. We had a lot of fun. We didn't have as much fun as like everyone else in the room, everyone else in the arena, because they were all singing along and we were like, "Hey, we know Sunflower." But we had a fun. It was more, let's just go and see somebody and get out of the house and go to a major concert, like a big name
that's
person
cool.
now.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And yeah, otherwise just been, I think we had our first snowfall since we spoke here in North Carolina, and it's likely that was the end of winter. We had one day of winter, and now it'll be spring for the rest of the duration, and then it'll go into summer. How about you? How's Colorado?
It's good. I haven't done a whole lot, just getting settled, figuring out what we're doing. Been doing a lot of trivia nights. At bar trivia, which I'm a big fan of. Won the last time around, which was nice. Yeah, just trying to stay calm, finding good restaurants. Found a great little breakfast place, which is funny because I'm not really a breakfast person, because that involves being up at a reasonable hour. And no, I've actually become somewhat of a morning person over the past couple of years, where I'm now, if I'm up at 6, I'm immediately awake and alert, and like, I don't want to be, but I have to be because I can't fall back asleep.
Right. And see, I am the exact opposite. I am like, up and at 'em, feet hit the floor, ready to go. Mm-hmm. That's been my MO.
Yeah. No, I've become more of that because, like, if I'm awake, I'm immediately alert, and it really bothers me sometimes because I just would like to go back to, like, but I can't because I can hear everything. So this is an interesting one for us because this is a year of us doing this. Which doesn't sound like it should. Well, it doesn't sound right.
No. Well, like you mentioned with Tide Pods.
Yeah.
Last a couple episodes ago, where Tide Pods was the beginning of January 2019.
Yeah.
I don't know where the year went of us talking to each other like this.
Nope.
This flew by.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to say that we've gotten better at this.
We absolutely have.
The production values alone, I mean, we actually have a logo and we have a theme song, but we also
have microphones.
Use actual microphones. Yeah, that's kind of impressive. What's been the most fun about it for you for this past year?
One, I have appreciated, like, movies that I love. I'm going back and rewatching them and rewatching them, knowing that there's, like, these things about them that I can appreciate more. And even the bad ones, I get to watch bad movies from time to time and either A, not feel bad about it, or B, watch these things and regain an appreciation of a good movie. Mm-hmm. It's like every now and then a McDonald's burger is perfect and exactly what you need.
Yeah.
But then it makes it so that you can go to an actual place and, like, yep, this is even better.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And part of it for me is also there's such a glut of stuff out there in streaming, right? There's so much stuff to watch. This has almost kind of helped narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, here's the infinite things to watch. Then we're just going to start watching thing these things.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of nice. But, you know, I think the biggest thing for me, though, and not to get sappy, but just have an excuse to chat with you and kind of go over, you know, because this has been a big year, I think, for both of us, right? I mean, you've moved, you got a new job, and you know, with us, you know, we're still doing our program, and this is kind of a big time in both of our lives, and it's kind of neat to have an excuse to
just talk about something.
Just talk about something, and not just, hey, how you doing? Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. You're still alive. Great. See you later. You know, so it's been something that I've really appreciated about this.
Yeah, no, I like that. I've appreciated that like I get to hang out with my brother from time to time, and it's nice.
Yeah, that's nice. What's the worst thing?
Deathstalker?
I would say Deathstalker 3.
Yeah. God.
I'm going to say that this episode, we once again found the bottom.
I don't know about that. We will burn that bridge when we get there.
It's gonna go pretty low.
I'm not denying that. So let's start with something better. Let's go best to worst.
Okay, so I think honestly we're gonna get into this because the second best movie I know is your favorite movie, like legit, hands down, that's your favorite movie. But I think we both can agree this other movie is a better movie,
and
I'm making air quotes here, like it's just a better construction film. But if we had started with the number 2 movie, I wouldn't have been too upset.
Yeah.
I think you can probably interchange them at this point. So in any case, first movie we're going to talk about might not feel like a fantasy movie from the outset. It is The Fifth Element. Luc Besson. It is his 1997. It's a French science fiction action film, but there is a ton of fantastical elements.
This is fantasy in the same way that Star Wars is a fantasy movie with wires taped to it.
Right, but I would say this is more sci-fi than Star Wars.
Yes, but this is
because this is a clear extension of Earth and our world, whereas Star Wars is not.
Yeah, Star Wars has laser swords and vague telepathy powers. This has explicit magic.
Oh no, and exactly, and that's why I do not feel weird calling this a fantasy movie or talking about it in this podcast. It is definitely sci-fi. I mean, hands down, it is a sci-fi movie, but it is also a fantasy movie too, because where the science stops, a whole lot of mysticism.
Yeah, it's a very soft sci-fi film.
Right. There's very much,
because like on one end you've got 2001 and The Martian, which are very hard grounded sci-fi, and then on the other end you've got the only thing that's basically softer than this is Barbarella.
Right. Well, so 2001 is a hard sci-fi movie, but there's also mystical elements in it, but those mystical elements are more the unknown. Yeah, and
it's
the
all
more
non-stated.
Right. So this one is more. I mean, there's the obelisks and there are these other, but there's sentient beings that are out there putting that there. Yeah. Whereas with this one, it's almost as a sci-fi movie that gets kind of creeped on by a fantasy movie, like a fantasy movie invades it almost. So to the point where Gary Oldman has black stuff creeping down his face. Yeah. So like he's a sci-fi villain and then a fantasy guy comes into him.
Does
that make sense?
Yeah, no. Well, it's funny because the primary protagonist, Corbin Dallas, and the primary antagonist, Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, they never interact.
No.
Yep. The closest they come is one gets off an elevator, the other one's getting on. And it's fantastic for that. I have talked about this movie and a bunch of other movies with a friend of mine as, like, this is the best accidental adaptation of Final Fantasy that's ever been made. This is a Final Fantasy movie. It just happens to, it's got the elements, it's got Magitech, there's some weird stuff. There's a magical elf woman. There's a stupid bard because it's a Super Nintendo version of the Final Fantasy games.
Right.
So A to B plot.
Well, we're gonna get into that too. Because Luc Besson had an imagination, and I'm not gonna fault him for that. We're gonna talk about.
He is a fan of French comics, and
so Valerian is all over this before he made Valerian.
Yeah.
A to B plot. There's a evil entity that comes back every 5,000 years. He's coming back in 48 hours, basically. And in order to stop him, this ancient weapon that has been given to us from another race, we need to harness this weapon to defeat it. And Bruce Willis's character is basically trying to protect the weapon and find the way to activate it.
Right.
That's the bare bones kind of thing. And then everything else gets piled on. I'm going to talk about positives first. I love Bruce Willis. I've always loved Bruce Willis. I think he's a great protagonist. I like the roles where he gets to do more than just gruff and grumble, and he kind of has some comedic moments in this that work for me.
Are you human? Negative. I am a meat popsicle.
Right. Like he looks very French in this movie. I mean, he's blonde hair. He's got all this like French outfits and stuff. I don't know. He works in this movie for me. I think he's a really great action hero in that he's not jacked, right? Like he's not like a roided out guy. He's an everyman guy, and that's why I always appreciated him as an action star, because it's one of those like you project out into it like, what if I was locked in a tower full of terrorists?
Yeah, he's
maybe I could go do that.
Yeah,
or like, what if I was in what if I'm trying, I'm a cabbie in New York and a alien falls into my cab? How am I going to protect her?
Yeah, it's one of those things that people got wrong with a lot of the Die Hard in an X films, in that they always end up having a super jacked guy be the thing, like the whole Olympus Has Fallen stuff, where he's the a super soldier, and that's not why Die Hard works. Die Hard works.
No, Die Hard works is he's just he's almost a schlub.
Yeah, he's a guy. I mean, he may be a cop and a good cop, but he's a guy.
Right.
A lot of them have problems like that.
Yeah.
No, I remember watching this in theaters with Dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we watched that together.
And I remember since this movie came out, my dad's primary complaint is Ruby Rod.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So here, you know what my primary complaint is?
What?
By the time that we get to Ruby Rod, who I think is a pretty funny character, and I really enjoy him, I can't enjoy him fully enough because I'm overwhelmed by everything else that has taken place already.
I get that.
There's just in rewatching, I haven't watched this in a long time, and I actually watched this with Elizabeth the other night. We only made it through half of it. I watched the rest of it later, but we were both like, man, there's just a lot of stuff in this, and I don't know how much of it really drives things forward. You know, I like when the Montechiwans. So the Montechiwans are the race that has given us the four stones,
And they take them away. And they take them away at the beginning because World War I's about to happen.
World War I's about to happen. They take him away, and Luke Perry is in it and is drawing stuff. But those
for 5 minutes,
and he gets
top billing.
Those drawings that he's making never. Okay, again, I'm gonna get to nitpicking later, like really nitpicking later. They take off. It cuts to 300 years later. You know, it's this crazy, incredible. Like it's a future that I have not seen anywhere else.
See what to me. What I thought was interesting, because I have seen that future in one other place, and that's Futurama. And it's one of the most depressingly realistic looking futures that could exist. Because it's the same. It's just taller.
Yes, it's the same, but just taller. And everybody has horrible acne. I don't know if you noticed that, but everybody
has really bad skin, yeah.
Really bad skin. The part that I didn't remember, so the Montechiwans come back. Like, so the evil appears. We're to shoot a bunch of rockets at it. We don't know what's going on. The Montechiwans come back, like, with the fifth element. And like with the weapon, and then these ships come out of nowhere, and like it's another race of aliens, and I was like, oh, I forgot about those guys, like
the Mangalores.
And at that point, there's all these other things that have happened that would just be enough for the movie, and then the Mangalores come in, and then they're trying to get weapons from Zorg, and Zorg's double crossing him for this, and then you know the priests are trying to do this, and then the Mangalores are now trying to double cross Zorg, and blah 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 blah, and then there's Super Green Ruby Rod, and at that point I'm like, well, I don't know. There's so much stuff.
Yeah, so you mentioned you watched this with Elizabeth.
Oh yeah.
This is literally the first movie Victoria and I ever watched together.
Nice.
Yeah, like somehow we were just flipping through them, and I'm like, have you ever seen The Fifth Element? It's like, I know it's a movie with Bruce Willis. Oh my god, okay.
Yeah.
Because that's the best way to drop someone into something like that. I love Mila Jovovich in it because she's just a great actress in general. But I like the
very childlike.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She's like an elf lady. She's the girl from Bright, or rather other way around. Because that's influenced, I would say, a bunch of different people over the years. Is that particular that character? It's got big action set pieces and just tons of character actors in the background that you don't know, like the bosun on the ship. He's the only other role I know him from is Mouse
Hunt. Yeah. yeah. There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff in it, and this is not a bad movie. It just feels like it could have done with a little bit of editing. Like some of the things you could have pulled back on, because if it's just like more, then enough of it doesn't land for me, I guess.
I'm at the point in my life where I realize that would be great. What I would love to see in this would be if this had come out now as an HBO miniseries.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
And just blow it out of the water with just absurd set pieces, and like you have the time to dedicate to weird bits like Ruby Rod.
Yeah, like Ruby Rod, or the I forget what his name is, but he's the actor that's deaf.
Oh God, yeah, King. And he's stone deaf. God, what was it? One of the things that shows up in anytime anyone talks about it, and was in every trailer, the opera.
Yeah,
and that's such an alien looking. Well, alien, but it's so dreamy looking, and it's interposed with so many different sequences in the background. I love it. I've always loved that sequence.
Oh, the opera is great, and then when she's like fighting, like because there's an opera, and then Lilu is fighting the Mangalores, and there's there's a lot of good like cutting back and forth set pieces. I really like the so basically Corbin Dallas is Bruce Willis. He's down on his luck. He was an ex-military guy. There's a bunch of people that are trying to get to this. It's a cruise, Flosson's Paradise. They're trying to get on this cruise because there's an opera singer on the cruise, and she's gonna have the stones. guns that will allow Lilu, the fifth element, to become the weapon that will defeat the dark thing that is now hurtling towards Earth.
Right.
And it's like Gary Oldman's character, Zorg, he wants it. The priests that were sent to protect Lilu but are bumbling, they want it. The military wants it. The Mangalores want it. The cutting back and forth of when they're all trying to get on the spacecraft, that, you know, like there's a great, like, there's a bunch of scenes of like, this guy's trying to get on this way, this guy's trying to get on this way, and then Ruby Rod's going down on one of the flight attendants while all this is happening. Yeah. It's a really stylish movie. It's really well filmed. It's beautiful. It's interesting. You're never bored.
No.
At all. And it's never like a camera, B camera, cut, one shot, two shot. This person talks, this person talks. It's always an interesting way that it's all filmed. But it just, there's so much stuff going on that, I don't know. I could have done with a little bit less. Ruby Rod was not something I would have done less with. I actually liked him. I think he adds a breath of levity. There's something that was really odd to me, and I don't know if this was odd to you too. You know, it's this sci-fi fantasy action epic, and then there's a lot of comedy in it, or like attempts at comedy. And whenever there's a comedy moment, the music goes... Dun, 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 dun. And it's just like, why is that here?
Because it's a Final Fantasy movie. Because that shit happens in Final Fantasy all the goddamn time.
I didn't like that.
I didn't say I like it either. I'm just saying that's one of those little bits of evidence. Like, this is Final Fantasy. Like, and here's the dumb joke.
Here's a really stupid joke. Here's like a really, like, they're all like, the military people get pushed into a freezer
and they're fine afterwards.
Yeah, it just
Okay, so pause for a second, because I was at a comic book convention a couple years ago, and there was a guy dressed as the guy who tries to mug him with the hat and everything.
That is such a specific reference. That's
I saw
awesome.
that. I'm like, and I went over and like I had to shake his hand. Like, this is the best cosplay I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that worked for humor, because it's such a like, wait, what?
And what he's talking about, folks, if you haven't seen it, is Corbin goes, you know, he looks at his peephole and he sees his hallway, and like he goes checks before he exits, and he opens the door and there's somebody that's mugging him, like there's somebody at the door, and he's all like hopped up on whatever, and space meth. But his hat was like a picture of the hallway, so he put that up to the keyhole, so that way anybody that looked out would see just an empty hallway, which is a pretty cool scam. Yeah. But just like, yeah, that's hilarious that you saw somebody doing that. Yeah, I mean, this was an interesting movie. I even on rewatch, I still think it's good. It's better than a lot of the movies that we've watched. Easily. It's lost some of its luster for me, if I'm going to be honest. Mostly because the protagonist and the antagonist never really meet.
Well, that I think is a really interesting choice, because they're...
Yeah. Well, who are the antagonists, really?
Well, I mean, the person... This is a really interesting one, because you've got Mr. Shadow, who's driving the plot, but the thing that is causing all of the problems for our protagonists is Zorg. Maybe at the behest of Shadow, but nothing. It's a mini boss kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and then where do the Mangalores fit in? Because they're actual physical, like
threats.
Zorg's physical threats. Yeah, I liked it.
I love this movie.
And also, upon watching Valerian, have you seen that one?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, you have. You watched this.
Oh, okay.
There's a really cool set piece in Valerian where they go to basically an interdimensional market.
Okay.
So they go to a planet and they step in another dimension. I think it's an interdimensional market. This space is a market. So now you are walking around in another market. Mm-hmm. So it's, I don't know. That was the one cool set piece in Valerian. Everything else, you don't need to see it. It's really not that great. But this, you know, I can't fault a movie that has a lot of ideas and a lot of neat things. And I just remember watching a behind the scenes of this on something.
Because we watched a lot of those as kids.
We watched a lot of those as kids. A lot of movie magics, a lot of shows like that on AMC and all that kind of stuff. And Luc Besson knew each one of the Mangalore's names. Yeah. And it showed him designing all the guns. He was involved in the production design, which is incredible in this movie. Great production design. So detailed. And like, so this was a vision of a movie that he had, and I don't fault him for that. Like, I can't be like, I can't on one side of things and like, oh, there's no new movies and there's no new stories and everything's just blah, blah, blah. And then at the same time, blast this movie for, man, this is just way too much creativity. Like, you know, like I can't do that. So
that's something I have noticed in a lot of, like, we're coming around on a lot of films, and I'm seeing it in one specific film more than anything else. But this has elements of it where we're noticing set dressing and weird vision. Mm-hmm. And I'm noticing there's a huge turnaround in popular consensus about the Super Mario Brothers movie, which a lot of people are talking about it lately. Like, this isn't particularly good, but it's got this strange vision, and it's so much production value went into how weird of a movie it looks. And I appreciate that, because it's always like, this is one of those where, well, all the guns look real, and someone went through and dressed the sets beautifully and perfectly and made everything look hard and look real. Mm-hmm. And
to our audience, you can't hear the face I'm making when he's describing Super Mario Brothers in a positive light, but it's not a good one. So just wanted to make sure you got that. I am not in the consensus of a turnaround for Super Mario Brothers. I think what in this case, because why I'm mentioning the set dressing and production design, is that it's in service to a story that is at times confusing and at times overstuffed, but it is entertaining, and it's also at the service of some really great performances. Now, Gary Oldman's hamming it up like crazy, but Bruce Willis, this is a good, like, Corbin Dallas is a cool action hero for him.
Yeah, he's playing. It's more a throwback to like Moonlighting than his action heroes.
Absolutely. Yep, Mila Jovovich is great in it. Yeah, this was a fun one. And again, the fantastical elements of it are, there's a bunch of science, but there's this mystical evil that comes back every 5,000 years, and there is this superhuman weapon that takes in all the elements of fire, wind, water, and earth, and is able to defeat it. Which I love that scene at the end. That scene at the end is wonderful, where they figure out like how to open the stones. Is that you have to blow on the wind one, you have to put water on the water one, you have to put air on the earth on the earth one, and then it's so well set up. Like, you know that he smokes. And you see early on in the movie that he's got 2 matches. He lights one of them, and now he only has 1 more. So when he takes that last box, you're like, oh, that was set up. That's so good.
Yeah. I remember, so it's fire burns, rain falls, wind blows. What does Earth do?
Dirts.
My only thought is Earth moves.
Earth dusts.
Earthquakes.
No, I dug this one. It was fun. It was a little, like I said, overstuffed, but a lot of it held up pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. So my movie is probably my literal favorite movie. Every time I watch it, I feel better about everything around me. I don't know why I started watching this, but the only movies that I have seen more are maybe Excalibur and Back to the Future. So KRULL is
We're gonna get here eventually, folks.
Yeah, I know. So KRULL is an
Strap
80s,
in.
Yeah, KRULL is an 80s adventure film, 80s fantasy adventure film.
Read lots of cocaine. That's when he says 80s.
Oh god, KRULL. It's a 1983 fantasy film by Peter Yates with music by Richard Horner, who he has spent his entire career ripping off this soundtrack. Because this soundtrack, there's chunks of it that show up in Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan was before this.
Huh. Okay. I'm wrong. No, that's fine. I just, for some reason,
I have audio recording of him saying that.
Look, I have never had any problem saying I'm wrong.
No, but you're right in that James Horner has ripped on, because this actually is different than Wrath of Khan soundtrack. You're right. This is different than the Wrath of Khan. There are elements of it.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
Well, I was just gonna say that how much of this movie depends on this absolutely ball-busting, wonderful soundtrack. The music in this movie is absolutely incredible.
it's probably about the same way that Dragonheart does.
Or Jaws. Like, Jaws is not the same movie without that theme, right?
No. If you had yakety sax playing the whole time in Jaws, it would not.
It would not be the same movie. KRULL without this James Horner score is going to be
flat and dead.
So flat and dead.
Yeah, but that's part of the magic of film is that it's
absolutely.
all
Absolutely.
So standard fantasy plot, because to the point where there's a lot of rumors where this was supposed to be the first attempt at a Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yes, I heard that.
And there's no confirmation on it, but there's enough weird elements to it that where I would be willing to say, okay, maybe. So there's these evil monsters from space. They are coming to the planet KRULL to marry a woman, to have an empress who would take over have a child who would take over the galaxy. They've been coming to this planet for a while. There's a couple of kingdoms that have been warring for years. They've decided to do a lie, and their kids are going to marry and become one kingdom, and they're going to fight, and they can win together. So Slayers attack the wedding. They kidnap the woman. The prince Colwyn gathers a ragtag, adventuring party of various characters who none of them matter except for Liam Neeson and Robbie Beltran.
Right, and they go to save the
Princess Lissa.
Lissa.
Yeah. So this is just there's so many great little bits, and there are a lot of really cool characters with like the Cyclops, who his race gave away one of their eyes for future sight to the beast, but it turns out all I can see is when they die, and so they hate him and they try and kill Slayers now. And there's Urgo the Magnificent, who's a terrible sorcerer, except for the only times that anything he does actually help is when he's trying to help people.
Wasn't he in Willy Wonka?
Yeah, he's the
I am now telling. Oh no, he's the teacher.
Yes,
he's Charlie's teacher.
Yep.
Well, I can't just do two. Yeah, there's a ton of really great characters. I haven't seen this one in a while. It's one of those movies that we watched a ton as we were kids. There's lots of really neat, like, it's basically, as the parts come on, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this part. I remember the crystal spider,
which is creepy.
And he has a sand in his hand. So there's a part where one of the team, he's an old man. He's gone through some horrible things in his life, and he's actually the first one that Colwyn meets, and they're basically trying to. So the race of these slayers and the beasts, they live in a black temple, a black castle. Black Fortress. And
you coming to my house?
Right. Black Fortress. And it moves every day. So at sunrise, it's gone. And it's somewhere else on the planet KRULL. So they have to figure out where it's going to be. Mm-hmm. His former wife that killed their child has now secluded herself in this
because there were responsibilities,
and he goes to get So he goes to talk to her, but there's this crystal spider that protects her, and he has to get to her before the spider gets to him. That's a great moment. That's the swamp, with the quicksand and the seer that's
the
not the seer anymore. And I mean, honestly, my favorite, and I think the thing that I always remember about this movie, and again it ties in with the music, is they find out where it's going to be, but it's like across the world, and they have to get there really quickly. So they get these fire horses.
Fire mares. Yeah, the fire mares. Fire mares can travel 1,000 leagues in a day.
So they have to go catch these, basically Clydes.
Yeah.
And it's that scene of them running, galloping as fast as they can, and there's fire shooting out from the hooves of the horses, and it's that. Like, it's so good.
So yeah,
so
and
good.
then they're getting attacked. Like the Cyclops stays behind because his time's gonna die. It's his time to die, and they're getting attacked and they're dying on the fortress. And then there's one more horse coming to them, and it's like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
It's the Cyclops. Yeah. Oh, it's so great. Maybe one of the coolest, like on par with like the proton pack or the lightsaber. I don't know why I didn't catch on as much. For like cool,
but the glaive,
the glaive, such a fantastical movie weapon. Like the lightsaber, obviously captured the imagination of people. Everybody, like, if you just hold a flashlight, boom, boom, like you just do that.
Yeah, you've got a lightsaber.
Glaive, you have a lightsaber. The glaive, I would posit, is as cool of a weapon. Like it is. It's just a neat, like, so the glaive. He had to reach into fire to get this. Like, it wasn't. I didn't notice this before, but it's like the symbol of his family.
Yep,
is the glaive.
Yeah. That's what he said. It's the glaive's an ancient symbol. We're gonna need more than symbols.
And then, and it's this basically this knife that, like, it's like this 5-bladed knife that, like, switches out and
It's those foam throwing stars that you get as a kid that you play, the foam boomerangs that you throw on the beach.
Only these have knives and they can kill beasts.
And they are apparently, buzzsaws. You can set it to drill into a wall or cut through a wall. So at the end of the movie, they attack the Black Fortress. Lots of them die. It's awesome. And it's not awesome that they die, but it's this beautifully weird set with inside the Black Fortress that's also might be the Beast's face as well at the same time. They lose the glaive. The glaive gets stuck in the Beast, and it's still alive. And so at the beginning of the movie, they pass fire between a chalice basically for Colwyn and Lyssa, and they get married. And when they do this, he or she hands him back the fire at the end of the movie, and he just gets fire. It gets a flamethrower from his hand.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that didn't happen at our wedding, by the way. I don't have Human Torch powers.
Yeah.
I got married to Elizabeth.
So here's my thought. Liam Neeson's character says that he's been married about 7 times. Does he have 7 flamethrowers?
I think that's for royalty.
Once again, a violent overthrow of the system. We fought a war to not care about royalty in this country.
This is not that country. That's KRULL.
I know.
Something that threw me off though, and continued. Like I remember the last time I saw it, it was weird, and then this was definitely weird.
Okay.
So they save the day. Colwyn finds Lyssa. They're married. They're gonna go rule the planet KRULL, and their son shall rule the galaxy.
Yes.
How's he gonna get off the planet?
That's not
they're a horse riding culture. They don't have spaceships.
We see this one portion of it. There's magic, and as we've established in our previous movie, magic and sci-fi kind of work together sometimes. Or maybe they could ruins of the Black Fortress. Maybe there's other things. Maybe there are more beasts who come down, and it's a whole prophesized thing. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
So that part always is like, yeah, you roll the planet, but galaxy.
But
what? Why are we bringing the galaxy into this? But there's a lot of great moments in it. I mean, it's silly. And I'm not trying to dog on your movie, buddy.
Dude, I 100% know that this is the silliest movie on the planet. I'm
Absolutely.
not saying
this is a silly, goofy movie with just, there's a lot of stuff in it, but it's fun. It was a fun movie.
And it has the greatest soundtrack of anything ever.
Do yourself a favor if you're looking for like, I need to get pumped up.
Yeah.
I need to get hyped up. Just listen to the main theme of KRULL.
Riding the Fire Mares.
Or Riding the Fire Mares. Now that's the part that is very much James Horner from Battle Beyond the Stars. And what other movies has he's done a couple of them so far?
Oh yeah, he did. Oh, let's look that up.
The Wizard. He did the Wizard of the Lost Kingdom.
Well, no, he just lit up. I think they just took that soundtrack and gave him a credit so that they could get past doing that.
But there's that. It's like I think it's strings, but it's stuff that you hear in Wrath of Khan. Like there's some string elements. It's like da 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 da. That one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a fun movie. I was excited to watch this one with you just because it was it'd been a long time since I'd seen this, and it just gave me warm fuzzies to think about this is the next part that's gonna happen. God. And the Fire Mares are gonna come. This is great.
So James Horner did the soundtrack to Commando.
Really?
Yeah, and Aliens.
Yeah.
I'm just looking through to see. Yeah, he's going to be on this list at least one more time.
For Commando? Well, why is Commando a fantasy movie?
No.
It's got its problems, and it is very. Some of it hasn't aged great.
Oh, I know.
But this was a fun one. What was not fun?
Oh my God.
What was not fun? And what I actually had to do something that I have not done on this list before. Because I've slogged through them all. I might not have paid much attention to a lot of it, but I have watched every movie on this list from start to finish until we got to Deathstalker 3 and The Warriors from Hell.
So I can't tell if it was because it was the bad YouTube copy we were watching. That probably didn't help. But there was... So I was watching this in the break room at work the past couple of days, and I've never felt like I was watching something I shouldn't have been than that movie. And not even because it's...
They're going to think you're a creep, man.
It's relatively tame. Like, compared to the rest of the Deathstalker movies, it's relatively tame.
Well, actually, compared to compared to the first one. I mean, the second one doesn't have anything really
awful. Yeah.
The first one one is objectively awful from a moral standpoint. There's not a lot of rape. There isn't any rape in this. There's some gratuitous nudity, but that's just a thing. But this was just god awful, and I got to the point where I said, okay, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. And then I remembered that this was one that Mystery Science Theater 3000 did, and they hated it.
Yeah.
So I went and found the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode of this, and I watched that last half of it with Tom Servo and Crow, and it was Joel.
Whoa.
I don't think it was Mike. I can't remember. But yeah, so I watched it with them instead of having to watch it. It was just atrocious.
See, that's what boggles my mind.
No, it was Mike. It wasn't Joel. It was Mike.
Okay. That's what boggles my mind is that this was, say what you will about Deathstalker, at least it was semi-coherent.
There's a lot of awful things in Deathstalker, like horrifyingly bad. I know I don't never want to watch that movie again. But you're right. There was a coherent thing that happened in the movie. Hey, tell me what happened in this movie. I got to it first. Tell me what happened in this movie.
So the legendary Deathstalker, legendary in the same way that the Titanic is legendary.
Legendary in the same way that this is a completely new actor.
Yep, the worst of the three.
Yes.
Like he's trying to play him as like a jerk with a heart of gold, but he's just a jerk.
He's just he's just a smarmy, just cocksure. Ugh.
They keep talking about him as like, oh, you've heard of me because I am a legend. No, you're not.
The best Deathstalker was the second one. The guy that played him. I thought he was the best one. Yeah, this guy was he was a jerk. Okay, so legendary Deathstalker.
Yeah, he's the worst Deathstalker. So long A to B plot.
He's the worst Deathstalker.
There's a village with a festival that he's at. Minions attack a festival because that's what minions do in fantasy movies. They attack festivals and villages. There's an evil sorcerer who has like half of a gym, and one of the people at the festival has the other half of a gym. And if you put the gyms together, Treasure City opens up, and it's all a bunch of nonsense because honestly, I checked out partway through it as well.
Yeah. I mean, I really couldn't tell you what was going on in this. I mean, it's a standard thing. What made it bad? But why was it so bad?
I didn't care. It was his lack of charisma, his lack of anything, that nothing happened, that it just, like, I was bored. There wasn't enough humor for it to be a comedy. There wasn't enough action for it to be an action film. There wasn't enough gratuitousness for it to be a gratuitous fantasy film. It was just a big pile of blah on top of I didn't care. And a lot of it was just bad acting and bad dialogue and bad everything.
Yeah, it was,
and it's not. It wasn't offensively bad like some of the things we've watched. I just didn't care.
Yeah,
partway through it, like
I didn't either, and it was just bad acting. Nothing happened that grabbed me. It was just really, really terrible. Don't watch it if you're gonna watch any. And this is to my library here on campus's credit. We actually are the only, I think, in North Carolina or in the North Carolina system that has a copy of Deathstalker 2 in our stacks.
It's a good one.
That's the good one. Watch that one. Everything else you can skip. I mean, we haven't gotten to 4 yet. We have to get to 4, and then.
Well, do you know the interesting thing about Deathstalker 4?
What?
The original Deathstalker actor came back.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I don't know what that means. We'll get there eventually.
All right. Let's get to the.
The only reason we watched this was because it's been a year and our first movie was Deathstalker. So.
Absolutely, and it was not. It was a nice to come back to and find one that was actually I think was worth. Let's go with the worst one first, okay?
Okay.
Because I think this is worse than Deathstalker.
Really?
Yeah. I think this is worse than Deathstalker. Deathstalker had a ton of rape. It was awful, but there's at least something that happened in it, and there was some like actual when the swords hit, it sounded like swords. This sounded like cardboard hitting cardboard.
Yep.
This wasn't a movie. This was just nonsense. So I'd start below Deathstalker.
Okay. What about P-51 Dragon Fighter?
Oh God. Was that even a movie? Actually, I think P-51's better.
Yeah, all right. Next is The Warrior and the Sorceress.
What do you think, Lucas?
I think The Warrior and the Sorceress might be worse.
Yes.
because I hated myself, and I stopped watching. I thought the movie was over. I went to go get groceries. I came back and didn't realize that it wasn't over. It had just been paused, and I had just stopped, and I had 5 minutes remaining. There was at least sort of an end to Deathstalker 3. So
Okay. Yep.
between Dragon Fighter and Warrior and the Sorceress.
Okay. I can get behind that.
Okay. All right. KRULL. Thing is, like, I'm going through this and the stuff that I'd rather watch that I think is better kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think KRULL's better than Beowulf.
Yes. 100%.
Pirates 1.
Yeah.
Time Bandits.
Yeah.
Klaus.
Oh,
No. Yeah. Okay. Then what about The Fifth Element?
Dang. Okay. We said it was a better movie.
A better movie. Yeah. So that puts it. Is it better than Klaus? Is The Fifth Element better than Klaus?
No, I don't think so.
And that doesn't sound right to me either.
I'd say it's better than KRULL,
Yeah.
and I put it in between
Cool.
Klaus and KRULL.
So that puts Fifth Element at number 5.
Wow. Okay. That's high up there.
Yep. And yeah, The Fifth Element at 5. And then KRULL at 6, and then that puts what's it called?
Deathstalker
At
3.
41.
41.
Somewhere around 41.
Okay. I can live with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Lucas, where can folks find us on the interwebs?
They can find us at Twitter at SwordInBoardCast. Same thing on Instagram. Lars, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, thank you for listening, and again, send us some recommendations. We're always looking for new movies to check out. So if you have a favorite, we'd love to hear them. So let us know.
Yep. Our theme song is Goblin Road Trip by Ryan Boyd. They can be found at Ryan Boyd. Our header and art is done by Wes Forbis. Hope you guys had a good night, and talk to you later. Bye.
Adios.